Hey, everybody. It's Friday. I think I said it was Friday yesterday. It's Friday, the 17th of March. This is the Business AMA with me, Kevin Murcko here, Coinmetro, with better internet. So hopefully we'll get through this thing without a bunch of hiccups like yesterday. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I already gave a bit of an explanation on the two hot topics of the day, but I'm going to go ahead and do those first anyway, just because yesterday's video, well, kind of ended up sucking because of all those different interruptions. So here we go. So trending topic number one, Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate, and Signature Bank fiascos. So quick summary of this, since we already covered it yesterday, but again, just because we're doing this again, we might as well do it again. We saw the collapse of Silvergate. Subsequent to that, we saw Silicon Valley Bank get taken over by regulators, and we saw a similar story with Signature Bank. The difference with Signature Bank is that it continues to operate as per normal, with regulators saying that funds are in effect available one-to-one. We've now seen, I believe, Silicon Valley Bank file for Chapter 11, and Silvergate haven't seen news so much in the most recent days, but basically a very similar situation. We're seeing the collapse of the crypto banking sector within the United States. Now, it's not really, I say the crypto banking sector just because these are the major crypto-friendly banks. We also have Metropolitan Bank based out of New York, and we also have Cross River, both of which have heard rumors that are now going to move away from supporting crypto as well. Not that they're going to close down or go to Chapter 11 or bankruptcy or anything like that, but that they will stop supporting crypto. There's this, everybody's seen this meme where it says, I don't know, first they don't believe in you, then they try to say you're full of shit, then they fight you, and then you win. Well, we're definitely in the fight phase right now when it comes to banking of crypto entities in the United States for US dollars. Silvergate, Silicon Bank second, the US, with Washington Mutual being the first. I think Washington Mutual is about 305 billion, something along those lines, roughly 300 billion. Silvergate 220-ish billion US dollars. Sorry, not Silvergate. I keep saying Silvergate because I see the abbreviation, I skip right over it on my screen. Silicon Valley Bank being the second largest. The big thing with Silicon Valley Bank is a lot of VCs had their money there, a lot. In fact, most fintech firms and fintech VCs and those that invested in other relatively high-risk properties like marijuana or cannabis for that matter had their money at SVB. That's going to mean probably that we're going to see a slowdown in funding of seed to pre-seed to seed, and also A to F rounds as well. But a lot of slowdown probably in that big innovation sector, which is pre-seed to seed, which may have a longer term effect on the industry than the closures of Silvergate and Signature. Closures of Silvergate. Signature still seems to be operational. Our accounts are still operational. We moved our funds out, but we're still transmitting money through Signature and not leaving a balance, just to be on the safe side. However, as far as we've been told, they will continue operations potentially under a different name and potentially under a different ownership, I would assume. For us, it hasn't had a major effect. It had a bit of a delay. If anybody had a euro or USD for that matter withdrawal that was delayed last week, this was part and parcel one of the reasons. Mainly, one of our biggest liquidity providers was settling with us in USD. So we would get settled in USD. We'd have to move that money to an FX provider, FX it into euro, or keep it in USD. Obviously, if it's USD, but funnel it to another entity to make those withdrawals. Or funnel it through an FX provider and then out to Europe in order to make euro withdrawals. And because of the kind of Signature Bank fiasco, as per the trending topic, that caused a bit of a delay. And so all those withdrawals have been paid. We are up to date. And so anyway, working through stuff. This market is dynamic and it's going to remain dynamic. Trending topic number one. Let's move on to trending topic number two. How does Signature Bank situation affect Coinmetro? I just kind of commented on that. It caused a bit of withdrawal delays across the board. For up to, I think, a week for some people. Most people were much less than that, but there were a few that were stuck in the mix for up to a week. It does limit, it hasn't yet limited us. It limits us in where we can hold company money in USD because we don't want to hold money at Signature right now, not understanding the full context of the situation. It doesn't necessarily affect clients except for that initial week-ish of delays. For us, it means that we're going to have to find new USD banking partners, which is, I got to tell you, not Easy. It's never been easy. It wasn't easy in my FX days. It's not easy in crypto either. It's not going to get any easier. I think we're going to see a complete exodus for a while of banks based in the US, at least larger size banks dealing with crypto entities. But nothing new there. Going to be more difficult, but like I said, always been difficult, and it's always been a pain in the ass to get banking. So, whatever. We'll continue to do what we do, and we'll simply have to work with new partners in order to do what we do. Okay, moving on to questions. Let's get through these bad boys. If you haven't put your question up on any of the places that we're broadcasting, whether that be Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or my own Twitter, please get those up. I'm going through the questions now. Here we go. From Charlie de Haas. Hola, Kevin. Well, hola, Charlie. How is the fundraising going? Well, have actually a pretty large soft commitment right now for the vast majority of the raise. Still a soft commitment, waiting on term sheets, et cetera, discussing some elements of the potential deal. I'm hoping to get, if we can close, I'm hoping to get that closed within the next 30 days. But it is a big soft commitment. Also, some additional potential funding coming through debt, as well as a handful to 2 handfuls of small to medium-sized tickets, which are all in different processes of closing. So my goal was the end of April. My goal is still the end of April to close this round. How are signups looking? Signups are falling off a little bit simply because we've pulled back marketing. Why have we pulled back marketing? Well, we're waiting on funding. So we do not want to be spending more money than we have to spend to maintain operations. Yes, growth is great, but if growth comes at the expense of increasing burn rate and thus reducing runway, that's not the best thing. That's not the best look going into a fundraising round either. So while we're not spending zero on marketing, we have had to pull back a bit. But signups are still at a level higher than the minimum we saw when we were doing obviously zero marketing sometime towards the beginning and middle of last year. Any updates on XCM liquidity? That's all coming with the fundraise as well. So no real updates, just the update to say that once there is a plan for once funding comes in for a certain amount of money to go and basically support the book, actually underwrite that 60-cent level. Where do you see Coinmetro by the end of 2023? Bonus points if you include XCM. Nice run of questions here, Charlie. You're hitting all the right points. By the end of 2023, look, funding coming in. By the end of 2023, I see us with a growing again in terms of team size. I see us focusing a lot on our engineering teams and our technology teams. I also see marketing growing its team, and I see a lot more emphasis on reactionary marketing as well. Like we have a few questions, I'm sure, here about why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? This is happening in the industry. Why aren't you capitalizing on that? And all those things obviously are things we want and know we should be doing, but we're not doing them right now because, well, it's resource heavy, and we need to make sure we can that we can maintain operations and make sure that as when funding comes in, we're ready to grow. And so, yeah, by the end of 2023, I would say we will see probably double the amount of active clients we have right now. Hopefully somewhere in the range of double to maybe even triple the average daily volume. So getting close to that 5 million mark, which we expected to be at the end of 2021, where we were at actually, until the market kind of decided to reverse itself. And just solid teams, probably office in Dubai, open and ready to roll. XCM underwritten and above 60 cents with an active market. Hi, Kevin. I love Coinmetro. What is your favorite hair shampoo? Hey, Pete, that's a great question, man. Because as you know, I take very good care of my hair. It's one of the things that I like to talk about with my buddies when we get together is hair care products, actually, funny enough. And I actually use a few because, making your hair look this good is not easy. In fact, it takes a lot of time out of my day. And if it wasn't for fundraising, I'd probably be washing my hair right now because, I like to do it at least 3-4 times a day to keep it healthy, thick, because thick hair is very important to me. So unfortunately, these are tricks of the trade. So you have to DM me to get that information because I can't really release it publicly because then they might stop manufacturing the shampoos I need to maintain this. Just FYI, but I would absolutely pay a subscription fee to get access to Coinmetro banking services like IBANs and debit cards. I think we're going to see somewhat of a subscription model, but also tied into tiers. So some people will get it for next to nothing. Some people will pay for it. Some people will pay more for it. But there absolutely will be subscription models built into those banking services. So glad to hear that, Charlie. Jens, some exchanges have USD troubles in the US. Why Binance can't support GBP in the UK no longer? Is there a reason we don't see CM actively trying to benefit from via marketing promotions? I spoke. I feel like I'm at a little kid's table right now with this. Like, I'm like, anyway. So I spoke about this a bit. It's resources, but I'll speak a bit more on it because it's not just resources. So Binance has U.S. troubles. We also not that we have the best U.S. Connections right now either. Nobody does. So tomorrow something else could happen. Some of our other providers could go bankrupt, go out of business. We don't want to necessarily be marketing for something we can't support. GBP, we are currently in a licensing process in the UK. Putting that out would be direct solicitation into the UK, at least probably deemed that way. And we can't do that until we have that license. So that's one of the reasons why these two things you don't see necessarily front and center. When do you expect to announce results of the funding round? Is there any larger tickets closed? By the end of April into May, and not yet on larger tickets, but getting there. XCM Sell Book is now limited to 5,000 XCM, but I would assume there are much larger margin positions from the time of nuke that were 1-to-1 entering the book. How far are we from burning through those? Now, I don't really get the question. Yes, there can be larger positions that were already in the book. I don't think there's many, though. In fact, I know that there aren't many. I don't know what you mean by burning through those. You mean buying through them? Well, you can see the book and how it looks. I guess you can make an estimation on that front by yourself. But I just commented on the book itself. So that answer kind of goes along with your question as well. If you could ask the community for things that, from your point of view, would support the growth of CM, what would that be? Well, telling your friends about Coinmetro, making sure that when you're going to come into the market, if we support an asset you want to buy or sell, do it at Coinmetro. Talk about Coinmetro. Tell people about Coinmetro. Anybody asks you about crypto, make sure you mention that you have accounts at Coinmetro. Tell them what you think is great about Coinmetro. Don't tell them what I think is great, but tell them what you think is great about Coinmetro. That word of mouth is always the most powerful resource, and that's always going to be the case. Seems I posted my questions too early. Don't see them anymore. So here we go again. Okay, Deep Philippe. Hi, sirs. When our RLC listing? Can't answer that one. Don't even know if that's on our list yet, but our listening committee, if they see it and they like it, they'll throw it into contention. First of all, smash that like button. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Deep Philippe. Smash, 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 smash. First question, what is the status of IBANs? And if debit cards make it more difficult, could we initially have IBANs? IBANs will be the first thing to roll out. IBANs and debit cards will not roll out together. IBANs will come first. Our current supplier, it has restricted the creation of new individual IBANs until June. They've done that because I think I'm pretty sure they're under a statutory audit from the regulator. There are other options. And so when we get closer to end of April into early May, if we understand that there's going to be more of a delay than June, then we will go after another provider. IBANs, though, will come first. Considering this kind of delay and the pressure that the banking industry is going to see, probably from legislators, not necessarily regulators, but legislators in dealing with crypto firms, we may see more turmoil before we see less. And thus, we may be forced to look for additional providers. So while we were considering to be ready to go by the end of Q2, which would be June, I'm thinking end of Q3 is probably more likely now, considering just what's happening in the world and banking in general. What opportunities can CM utilize with the financial systems collapsing, and where it seems BTC crypto proves a true hedge against it as intended? Marketing is a thing. So obviously, once funding comes in, once we're pushing out more marketing, once we have a new website up, all those things can be addressed. We are addressing many of these things, I would say, from a top level, very directly and or indirectly in new website copy. And that's about trust. It's about transparency. It's about community. It's about all these things that the traditional finance just doesn't have. And one of the reasons why I think many people are moving into alternative means of moving money, and including crypto. And so one is, website rehash, which I've seen now just in our last TGIF meeting, which we had today. Some amazing designs from our design team. Shout out to Kane. Shout out to the entire design team, Jaime, and everybody else is working at our marketing team as well, just doing a tremendous job. And so that's one way. Also, I think just to do what we do, but make sure more people know how we do things, because we do things differently than most every other business here in this industry. And I think that's going to be a shining light on, again, the differences between traditional and this alternative that people have that they may not know they have with Coinmetro. 3, any marketing strategy sees the opportunity here? We already talked about this, so I'm not going to rehash it. Hybrid, fully regulated, all those things will also be, hybrid, because we're not ready with that yet, won't necessarily be mentioned on the website, but fully regulated, et cetera, will. Seems like some opportunities. You're right, there are opportunities, but Resources. What is the status of the current raise funding we're on? Also commented on that already. So I'll continue down the line. How have you been, Dad? I didn't know I had, I guess, a very bearded old son. I didn't know I was 185 years old. I guess I'm looking pretty good for 185. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Hey, Kevin, first time I'm here on time to watch you live. Amazing. Literally in more than 2 years. Awesome. How and when you see Coinmetro suitable for day trading scalping regarding spreads and slippage? Well, I think it's suitable now. It just depends on what you're trading and the volumes you're trading and what time of day you're trading. But our liquidity on BTC and other majors and most of the assets that are listed on Coinmetro, I would say, is sufficient, especially on the majors. But depending on what time of day you trade, obviously liquidity changes throughout the day, whether you're on the overlap between, let's say, US and European markets, or you're trading on the overlap between European and Asian markets, or you're trading at some time in between those markets, or at lulls during the day, or, whenever, during times of crisis when liquidity can be pulled. All those things come into play. The more clients we have, the more people trading provides more liquidity in the book. It also gives us fodder to get better services and better pricing and better liquidity from our liquidity providers. With fundraising, adding more liquidity providers and aggregating liquidity providers is going to be a thing that will be on our to-do list. But I would say now for BTC, because that's specifically about your question, you can do that now. But if you've taken trades where you feel that that's not the case, let us know about it. Let us take a look. Let's see what's happening with those trades. Let's understand how potentially we can get those bad boys filled better and faster for you. Long time no see, Kevo. Hey, DCF. Nice to see you. Massive market opportunities for CM. Time to rise, team. Agreed. What's the best way to avoid taxes? Asking for a friend. Should I move to Mexico? Hey, Gigi, I can't give you any tax advice, especially not how to avoid tax. Optimization of taxes is a thing. Avoiding tax, we don't talk about stuff like that. Should I move to Mexico? Well, Mexico has a shitty tax system that's pretty expensive. So I say if you're trying to optimize your tax situation, Mexico's not the place to go for sure. Hi, Kevin. The recent bank crisis has brought attention to crypto and Bitcoin especially. Do you feel that regulators will start to target crypto even harder now that they see money flowing to BTC? I think that this kind of crypto bank issue is not necessarily crypto driven. These are banks that made their money in different ways, weren't necessarily full-on retail banks, weren't giving a lot of mortgages or loans, etc. It's all operational. So they put their money their client money into generally risk-off assets like treasuries or bonds mainly. And then, the Fed decides to raise rates really fast, fastest ever in history. And they get stuck in a position where they have to pay more for overnight loans and for money from the Fed than they're actually making on the bonds. They start to lose money. And then because some of their clients that are holding money with them, especially for SVB, holding large amounts of money that they use to invest in other entities, see that they can make X amount of money on treasuries that outpaces, at least for low to no risk, or supposed no risk, they pull their money out of the bank. That leads to a scenario where the bank collapses. The bank was following the rules. Doesn't mean it could have been managed better. Doesn't mean it could have pivoted faster, blah, 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 blah. All that shit is true. But I don't think it was necessarily an attack on crypto. It's just these banks that aren't doing the same business, meaning making money on loans, et cetera, to the extent that other banks are, ran into problems. In fact, to be honest, a lot of banks that do traditional banking, HSBC, Wells Fargo, are also running into similar problems. Almost every bank in the world is seeing an element of these issues. And so the fact that the media jumps on, the fact that they've been serving crypto entities, and the fact that they probably are getting some pressure because the crypto entities are potentially seen as high risk as well. Yeah. I mean, it's, I do think we're going to see more pressure. Banks are going to see more pressure, especially banks that deal in similar industries that these three banks do are going to see more pressure. That is indirectly going to put more pressure on crypto entities. Whether it's direct from the regulator or not, that's going to happen. But we've been through this many times, and it's not that it never ends, but to a certain extent, it doesn't end. I mean, the type of pressure changes. It's not the same type of pressure we had back in 2017 when no one could get a bank account, and thus, everybody was stuck, and there was no one offering services, and that caused that. And the reason there being was that no one understood the industry. They didn't think it was going to be around in a few years, et cetera, et cetera. We're not in that type of pressure. We're in a different type of pressure now. And I'm sure we will get out of this just like we did, the last round of bullshit that we had to deal with. Caspa, I've seen a lot of people posting on Caspa on Twitter. I've been tagging a lot of stuff. Not so interesting for me yet. I don't see the interest, but that doesn't mean it won't get listed. And Dius, haven't looked at that one yet. So again, listing committee may bring that to our attention. We'll have to see. Do you think Bitcoin has finally started a new bull cycle? No, I don't think we ever really came out of a range. I think we've been in a massive range. Yes, we've been kind of obviously off of highs, but I don't think Bitcoin has ever really not been in a bull cycle. To be honest, I think it's been in a bull cycle since it was created. Right now, though, I still see us in a range. We are definitely at the top of that range now. In fact, depending on how you chart it, we may have broken that range and now probably going to retest the top of that range. But generally speaking, I wouldn't call this a bull run yet. I think this is simply a reaction to, oh, Bitcoin, this makes sense now because of banks. But that doesn't mean that we're going to remain at these prices. Hi, Kevin, can you implement Ideal? Yeah, that is something that's on our list as well. We have a few providers that we've been looking at. One, I think that we're looking to integrate relatively soon, which supports Ideal. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. Again, resource management, but it is something that's on our list indirectly through one provider that we have for other services. With U.S. trying to kill crypto, where will crypto innovation move to? I don't think the U.S. is trying to kill crypto. I think the U.S. is just being the U.S. Crypto innovation isn't going to leave the U.S., just like other innovative companies never left the U.S. But the great thing about crypto and innovation in crypto is it can happen anywhere. So the U.S. doesn't own crypto innovation. It never has, and it never will. In fact, doesn't own innovation almost in any sector anymore. And it did, but it doesn't anymore. And that's not so much because the U.S. tries to kill things, other than business will always try to find the most streamlined way to grow. And whether it be regulation, whether it be tax, whether it be any of these things that can sometimes hinder their ability to grow and grow fast, they'll find a better option. But it's not going to leave the U.S. entirely. I think you're going to see hubs of innovation in countries like Mexico, in other countries in South America like Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil. You're also going to see hubs in Africa, places like Nigeria, for example. You're also going to see hubs in Europe, in your main, in London. And there's going to be lots of innovation hubs. And the U.S. will continue to be one of them. A new question. What is a soft commitment? So soft commitment means we don't have any ink on paper yet, but we've been given a yes, and we're now negotiating terms. So that's a soft commitment. Too many questions already. I hope mine will get in. Perhaps allow 1 to 2 questions per person. Anyway, is Coinmetro still ready to grow? It looks shaky with euro withdrawals. So euro withdrawals was all based on, yes, us getting settled in USD by one of our larger liquidity providers and having to move USD through an FX provider and then out to our euro accounts. And that took longer than expected because of the, what happened with Signature Bank. And it took a bit longer than it normally would have taken. Taking a long time, complete stop of USD. I don't think any other exchange did that. Well, the USDC thing, there was a lot of panic on USDC. I think other exchanges did do it. Maybe not some of the big ones, but every company has a different risk profile. Every company looks to protect their end users and the business in different ways. We also didn't put stops on other, withdrawals, or we never put a stop on withdrawals, but we also didn't see withdrawal delays during things like Luna and FTX. We also didn't put stops on anything. Many other exchanges did. So it's just a different risk profile. But it's just, all we're trying to do at the end of the day is to make sure that we can service you the best way we can. And we want to make sure that means that you're not taking on, as a client, extensive risk, and that we're not taking on risk as a business as well. So withdrawals are back to normal. USDC is back to normal. And I think it's all part of just handling a crisis. Simple as that. What do you think about the XCM price? Can we expect some positive signs? Yes, in the future, absolutely. In the short, medium to long-term future, absolutely. A lot of that's going to depend. Funding round coming in, market making being set up, underwriting being put in. And those things are all on the agenda. Love your acid humor. I've never heard of acid humor, but dark humor maybe. But I appreciate that. Do you think we're entering end times, World War III? What's the best course of action? I do not think we're entering end times. I don't think we're going to see World War III. I think there's a lot of what everybody likes to call saber rattling. I think this is a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia, and I think it's going to stay that way. I think everybody knows what it is, even though it might not be mentioned publicly. I don't see. I think the best course of action is just to be cautious. If you're worried, make sure you're getting, assets, Bitcoin or gold, one or the other is not going to help you if it's, the end of days. Canned tuna and ammunition might do a lot more than Bitcoin and gold. But in the case of financials, the financial institution collapse, now we still need internet for the most part. You don't necessarily need internet, but you definitely need the internet would make this a lot easier. But you still need to have infrastructure. Bitcoin would be a better course of action, I think, than gold. It's much easier to transmit around, and it'll probably hold its value better. But yeah, look, nobody knows what to do in the end of days because, well, it's never happened before. So I can't really give you any advice on that, unfortunately. If you have some, though, I'd be willing to listen to it. When will CM head into the big leagues in terms of funding, i.e., raising hundreds of millions? I hope, my vision is that in the very next round we make. So after closing of this round, within 6 to 18 months, depending on what the market looks like, depending on what Coinmetro looks like, we'll start getting into those much bigger funding rounds. Do you believe in the firmament? I don't know what that is, so I can't give you a comment on that. So I guess that doesn't mean I don't believe in it, but if I don't know what it is, I probably don't, I guess, right? Because if I believed in something and it existed somewhere in some written form or something, I'd probably know what it was. Can't wait for the secret KDX listing you guys have been working on in the background. That's good. Some good baiting, man. It's good baiting. I'm not even going to touch that one. When will you list EWT? We've actually been talking about EWT for a long time. I think that might be on a short list somewhere. So I think, though, probably because it's on mainnet is probably why it hasn't been listed yet. Do you believe Nixon called Man on the Moon? Do you believe Nixon called Man on the Moon 969 304,000 miles away? Wow, you seem to be throwing out a lot of conspiracy stuff, Do I think that we actually put a man on the moon? Yes, I do. I don't think it was in a studio. I don't think it was, a bunch of shit. I don't think it was a bunch of, I don't think we were full of shit. I think we actually did it, to be honest. For the CM bond redemption, was the change from 1-to-1 equity to 150 XCM to what it is now a Coinmetro, or was it regulation related? Hold on. For the CM bond, was the change from 1-to-1 equity? There hasn't been a change. There wasn't a change done in those calculations. So yeah, there's no question to be answered there. There was no change made. Hey, Adam. Hey, Kevin. Just wanted to say thanks for continuing to bring high levels of energy and transparent thing you do at Coinmetro. Gives a lot of confidence in the future of the company. Keep it up. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming in and making your statement, and thanks for everybody else for your questions. Really do appreciate those. When is the next shareholder meeting? I think we're going to end up having a shareholder meeting mid to end of April. So a little bit off schedule, but simply because of my traveling. So any non-funding related biz dev. Right now, all biz dev, for the most part, almost 99% is all focused on fundraising. So no real news on new biz dev, even though there are some things being worked on. Fundraising is number one right now. Great question. I focused to trade on chain with ops because I don't trust any sexes except for CM, but the spreads and location just didn't accept it for my orders. Yeah, guys, love to get you in the feedback channel. Let us know what you actually need, how you're trading, whether you're using limits. Seems like you might be using limits. What the size of those limit orders are, how you're placing them, whether you're doing it automatically or manually, how far away you're placing them from, let's say, the bid or the ask, et cetera, et cetera. Love to get those details so we can try and work with our liquidity providers to make sure you have a better experience. MCW, I mine Flux directly to Coinmetro, convert it to XLM, and send XLM to Coinbase to get cash. How would you handle that tax situation? Can't give you tax information, man. Not a tax professional. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it seems. I mean, I'll give you a layman's perspective on this. You mine Flux, so I don't know where you're based. U.S. based, I guess, with Coinbase. So to be honest, I'm not really sure how the U.S. deals with mined assets, whether they're taxed at the time of mining or the time of redemption. But you're converting it almost immediately anyway, I guess. On that conversion to XLM, I would assume that's already a tax event, whether it's another crypto or not. I don't think it makes any difference. You're converting something you got essentially for free into something now that and you're converting that tax event. We're supposed to feed that for tax event. But yeah, again, I can't give you advice, so don't take it. Go ask a tax professional. That's what they're there for. How close is CM to profitability? Like, how far are we off? Well, in terms of money wise, it's a relatively small amount. We're probably earning somewhere in the range of about 15 to 20% of our burn rate, but our burn rate is not significantly large. In order to get to profitability, I think, to be honest, we really, even just doubling our current active user base would probably get us very close, especially during, let's call it a bull run, when passive income becomes a much larger piece of the puzzle for us. With a new funding round, assuming it's successful, will this drive up valuation of CM and essentially further raise the XCM price floor? We won't raise the XCM price floor, but it would increase the valuation of Coinmetro. Absolutely. The printed valuation would be higher. It'll also give us funds where we'll be able to underwrite the current price floor, which I would suspect would mean price will rise from there by itself. Greetings, Kevin. Just a personal preference. Trading platform you had in early 2022 seemed easier to navigate than current. Want to comment on, thanks for that comment, Howard. I appreciate that. Want to comment on US SEC behavior. I think the SEC is overstepping in general. I think the guy at the head there shouldn't be the head. I don't think he understands really the ins and outs of our sector. I honestly think that there's other people at the SEC that understand it much better. It's unfortunate that's what's happened to Kraken. Even some of the things that have happened to other institutions, but the Kraken one rings a bell in my mind. Staking. I don't know if you saw that video, the really cringe stake video that the SEC made. It was cringe, man. It really was cringe. It wasn't funny. It wasn't informational. It was shit. It almost feels like the SEC is trolling us and kind of trying and laughing in our faces, when in reality, I don't think they really understand the nuances of some stakeable assets. Not all, but some. And they just blanketed everybody into the same category, which I think is just unprofessional and immature at best. So SEC is overstepping. At some point, somebody's going to have to fight the SEC. I believe Kraken has even said they couldn't do it because they simply didn't have the resources. But if somebody wants to step up, we need SROs. We need a strong self-regulating organization in the US, in Europe, et cetera. We need that organization to band together both big and small entities. We need to pool together and fight ridiculous legislation, ridiculous, and definitely. Oh, popped out for a second. Hopefully we're not seeing the same issues we saw yesterday. Is it right to consider that the biggest crypto brokers are also like centralized exchanges on their own, also providing constant liquidity with market making? What's the difference with how CM works? Well, there's no such thing. If you're a centralized exchange, quote unquote, you are a broker for the most part. So we act as a broker. An exchange would mean that we are on the other side of trades, exchanging something for something else, or we're like the settlement engine, et cetera. That's not really the case. In fact, we use external liquidity for the most part to match orders, and that makes us more of a broker than an exchange. And so it does this. It's the same for every other crypto exchange that's centralized for the most part. So, I mean, obviously there's nuances in how we work in terms of how we manage assets, how we treat clients, how we deal with internal issues, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of the term exchange is one of those words, again, that's not used correctly in our industry. Adam A, related to the price floor, this may have been addressed in the past. Are you concerned about the optics of a funky chart on coin tracking sites? I'm not really. Look, I know it's been like a year now, but in the scope of things, that's a small amount of time. And once we do kind of get over to the other side of the tracks and correct this, no, not concerned at all, actually. Do you plan to be more active on Twitter like CZ and Coinbase and Kraken CEOs? Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day to you too. Yeah, I want to be more active on Twitter. It's just it doesn't come out of me naturally, and I think sometimes just making random comments doesn't really provide any value, which is what I see a lot from CZ, not so much from Kraken, but from CZ. But yes, actually, our communications manager was pushing me to be more active, and I was more active, if you notice, for a while. Then she stopped pushing, and I stopped being active. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I would like to, absolutely. I asked because I tried to introduce CM to someone. They took one look at the chart and immediately got a negative impression. Yeah. Look, and I understand that's a case, and it happens. Doesn't happen to every client that comes to Coinmetro. In fact, it doesn't happen to most. The vast majority aren't going to look at a chart of XCM and make their decision whether they want to do business with us. Some people that are traders or think they're traders may look at a chart. I don't know how that relates to how we do business. I don't know how that relates to the business itself. I see how it relates to the token. But also, understanding what that floor is, the fact that the floor is there, and the fact that price can't below that floor, and once liquidity comes in, it can only go one way, and that's up, is also something that probably needs to be explained to most people because it's not really seen on the chart. Do you have an office in Mexico? Hey, Mark, yes, we do. Any comments on the macroeconomics at the moment? Has the interest rate peaked? Are we going to see a potential heavy recession coming? Will housing continue down? The money printing starts. So quick comment on these things. I said at the beginning of the year, by the end of Q2 into the second half of the year, they would start lowering rates because they have to, because they can't continue to raise them because it's going to cause turmoil. Well, rates were raised, turmoil ensued, or starts to ensue now at banks, etc. They will have to lower rates. They will have to print more money. It's going to happen second half of this year. I still see that as the case. It may even happen sooner, but second half of the year still looks like prime time for me. We've been in a recession already. The recession has seen kind of, it may be looked at through a different lens, but we have been in a recession and we will probably be in a recession for the next 18 months. Will housing continue down? Yes, especially in places where the bubble got too big. I don't think the bubble will burst, but it's going to deflate a bit. And money printing second half of the year. Well, not on BTC, liquidity is decent, but I like trading lower caps like Quant, Engine, HBAR to the max. But the bigger CM gets, the better the experience will be for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Look, on some of those assets, we do have external liquidity. On some, we don't. We did, but the provider we were using, we moved away from for different reasons, and now we're in search for new providers. And so that search is going to become easier with more capital. So yes, BTC is good, ETH is good, all majors are good. Also, some low caps are also good because they're supported by a liquidity provider. Some aren't. And when they're not, it's internal book liquidity. And when it's internal book liquidity, well, it depends on the book. Less clients means less amount of volume in the book. Less amount of liquidity in the book means, well, more slippage and higher spreads. And so those are things we're cognizant of, and we're constantly on the lookout for new providers. But again, it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. Oh, you don't have enough volume on that asset, so we can't offer you services. But at the same time, how do we get more volume on that asset unless they're going to offer us services? The way we do that is to get more people putting orders into the book. More limit orders in the book mean more liquidity for everybody. But to do that, we need more clients. Thus, we need to grow. What about USA, China, Russia governments being some of the biggest BTC whales? Wouldn't this be the most dangerous issue for crypto? Yeah, they are rumors for sure. And actually not entirely rumors. The US did own a ton of Bitcoin that they seized. Most countries, I think, well, US in particular, owns Bitcoin because they seize it. But they also sell it off at auction. Some of the Silk Road Bitcoin was famously sold to Mike Novogratz back in the day. And so, that is true, but not true. I don't necessarily see these countries buying Bitcoin. That doesn't mean they don't own some. It doesn't mean they haven't bought it, but I don't see any active buying campaigns. I think most of the largest BTC whales are private individuals and companies, and most of those you probably know about already. I don't think it's an issue because, well, if they're owning things that are not BTC, that are proof of stake, and then they get enough where they can control voting within that chain, that becomes an issue. But for BTC, it's more about mining that it would become an issue. And that, with China in the picture and potentially Russia, might actually become an issue. Re-USDC risk, I think the exchanges should provide liquidity and allow people to choose buy or sell. If USDC went to null, you force your clients to hold the bag. Well, again, we're not an exchange by definition. We're a broker. So what you're saying is we should take the entirety of the risk, systemic risk or otherwise, if an asset that you choose to buy goes to zero or liquidity is pulled from the market. That would mean that every exchange at some point is going to go bankrupt and go out of business. If you buy something, you're taking that risk. We do everything we can because we make money when you transact. We want you to transact. We do everything we can to make sure there's enough liquidity so you can transact. But if liquidity is pulled from the market, it's not just going to be from us. It's going to be from multiple other people, multiple other providers. There's nothing we can do. And if we buy that back from you using company funds, we risk going out of business, which means all your assets would be at risk just because we're trying to save you money on one. That's not the business we're in. I'd love to say that we had all the capital in the world to be able to do that, but we don't. So it's an impossibility, actually. And it's not really the mandate of an exchange or a broker. Let's go. Hey, Sean. Finally, all thoughts about gold, especially with how the BRIC apparently wants to start using it as the base for pricing all other commodities outside USD. Look, I've heard about countries and sovereigns pricing commodities not using USD for 30 years. And this is just another one. Now, we're in a different scenario now. Sure, it's slightly different than other scenarios that have passed over the last 30, 40 years. It's not entirely different, though. Some of the major pieces of this have happened more than once and will continue to happen because these things are cyclical. I don't see gold being used to price other commodities. That would lead to quite a lot of either market stagnation, because you would have, if commodities generally follow the price of gold, you would have stagnation in pricing when priced in gold. The other side of that is you may lose volatility, which may lead to a lack of volumes, which may actually lead to lower prices across the board. And also pricing mechanisms are built in and so antiquated, especially in certain countries that aren't fully digitized, that to do this would be such a pain in the ass that no, I don't see it happening. We need full digitization across all major markets before you could ever see something like this take place. And even then, I'm not sure it would happen. Oh, dang. I was the first to ask you in a TG DM about EWT. Okay, well, hats off to you, Sean. Like a year ago. I think it might have been more than a year ago if you were the first. Thank you for the hopium. I feel better now. Appreciate that, Jet Fuel. Just curious about your opinion. Should I close my crypto shorts? I'm hodling my shorts. Historically, shorting crypto has never been a great idea. Well, shorting majors has never been a great idea. Shorting some shitcoins has been a great idea, historically speaking. So it depends on what you're shorting, I guess. If you say that MM is going to be applied for XCM in 1 to 3 months, then I will speculate to buy more. Well, funding comes in. That is the plan. That much I can tell you. What up, brother? Nice to see you here. Hey, DC. Well, DCF saying hi to Sean. Got a bromance going on within the chat comments. Amazing. Not considering crypto, do you invest in any of their instruments? What are now that fluctuating markets bring nice opportunities? I have other investments for sure, but not necessarily instruments on a screen. So not digital instruments. I have physical stuff. Whether that be, real estate, etc., some oil wells. I got a few. I have a few things in my portfolio that are outside of crypto, absolutely, but the majority is still in crypto. If CM in the nearby future after the fundraising will support 6% price floor, how are you going to make sure it will be able to hold? We will still have the same floor we have now. We will just underwrite the floor, meaning that we will be pricing at the floor. That doesn't mean we will remove the floor. We can still have a scenario where so much sell pressure comes in at the floor that we have to then pull out the liquidity and kind of revamp the strategy. And that may mean being a bit, that may mean us underwriting like a 59-cent floor or something, or 58, or I don't know, having a range. I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I can't answer that question until I see what that looks like. The plan essentially is to make sure that we can eat through the current kind of base, which is what you see, this kind of wall. And then be pricing a certain amount per day of liquidity at that floor. 5K, 10K, 4K, 3K, whatever that number is, 500, whatever the number is, basically supporting the market in some way. And then as price starts to come off the 60-cent floor, make sure that there's constantly an open market at that price. Sorry for the lack of clarity in the question. I was asking because I had 77 bonds, but only got 15 equity tokens. Yeah, but the math off the top of my head, it depends on the price of the equity token. And I don't know but the calculations are accurate. So you said 1-to-1, the money you put in is 1-to-1. So if you invest 77 bonds at 770 euro, right? I think that was the cost. Then you got the exact correct amount of equity tokens. It's based on the amount of money you put in, and it is 1-to-1. It's not one bond equals one equity token. Well, they're not tokens, actually. It's a percentage of share capital, and the calculations are accurate. The only thing I think your trading platform needs is showing the open positions and orders on the charts. Feedback channel, man. Throw it in the feedback channel. If we can do it, we're going to do it. I think it's a great idea. Getting to the end here. Did Jesse Powell get back to you about SRO? He hasn't. I'll probably ping him again here shortly. We'll see what happens. Murcko, I have a question. Awesome. I'm thinking bull run starting soon after Bitcoin halving and near the possible tail end of quantitative easing. What are your thoughts? That one puts into question whether we're going to go back into quantitative easing, which, yeah, like I said, end of Q2, I believe that's or second half of the year. I think that's going to happen. There's always some type of historically there's been a bull run after halving. I don't think it's going to take that long for us to start to see higher prices, though. New all-time high, though, probably will not happen before at least after the halving, if it happens at all. I'll throw that in there, a caveat. Does underwriting the price for mean that there will always be a buyer at 60 cents? Would be good if CM considering that money is better spent on growth. Yeah, it doesn't mean there's always going to be a buyer. It means we will be constantly in at 60 cents. Doesn't mean we will support every sell order at 60 cents. The books are the best way to trade. Other reason I love Coinmetro. Okay. Thank you. Serious question. Will CM be supporting layer 2 deposits for USD or any other ERC20 asset for that matter? Support for networks like, yep, that's in the books as well. We want to have support for layer 2s. That is definitely something we're going to be looking at. Feedback channel, please, as well with that one. Did you receive FLR? And if so, when will we distribute? We did. I don't have a date for you on that. That might be a great one for Oliver with his product showcase, which should be next week. Thanks for the clarity. You're very welcome on that. Hey, Kevin, anything new regarding KDA partnership? Nope, not currently. I'm thinking, so we already got that one. Last question. Will you ever be able to get on the charts actual trading view? Well, I think they charge us like $50K to do that. So if it's something that a vast majority of people want, maybe we can do a poll, fundraising come in, we can do it for sure. What is your opinion on this one? Signature Bank board member says regulators shut down the bank to send a strong anti-crypto message. I think, I think that was that Barney Frank, or he was on another board. I think he was SVB. I don't remember. Somebody came out and said something like that. I think his opinion's probably based on emotion. I think there probably was definitely some crypto comments from the regulator for sure. I don't think they shut down the bank. I think they shut down the bank. What it looks like right now, they did it for very little reason, because they thought there would be systemic blowback from SVB and Silvergate, considering that they service similar industries. And that may be the kind of anti-message that's being sent. I think they jumped the gun on Signature Bank, and I think that's pretty obvious because they're still operational. When can we buy some equity on the secondary market? I want to scoop up some more. That should be in the relatively near future, hopefully within Q2. Did you talk to Kaizen? He's asking for you. Kaizen, sorry. I remember I messed his name up the first time I pronounced it. No, I haven't. He's asking for me. He has my direct contact. Doesn't need to ask for me. He can just send me a message. Thank you for taking the time to get through all the questions. Have a great weekend ahead. Thank you, Jens, for asking the questions. I mean, because if not, I would have been here talking to myself. What happened to the earlier shareholders who all supported XCM price in the book? Will they be helping again in the future? More than likely, yes, and other investors will too. I mean, some of those investors will probably also be part of this current round. So even with that, they're helping. But yes, there will be support, not just from Coinmetro, Treasury. Thoughts on the future of copy trading? I think the new copy trading platform is going to be amazing. I think we're also with DCA and portfolio swap and a few other things, kind of spot trading, a version kind of copy trading for spot trading where you copy physical portfolios. All those things are going to be amazing. It once again will be one of the biggest revenue pieces of our ecosystem, one of the revenue driving pieces of our ecosystem. And I do think it's going to be well received by the industry, and it's going to be one of the things that we're going to be able to market that's going to separate us from the pack. There we go. I think that's the last question. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. We're 48 minutes in. I think this was supposed to be 30 minutes. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Thank you for dealing with me yesterday with my bad internet, and hopefully today everything was smooth. I appreciate everybody's support, really do. Thank you very much for being a Coinmetro client, and if you're not, thank you very much for showing up and asking a question. Thank you for being critical. Thank you for being supportive. Thank you for doing everything you guys do. Have a great weekend now that it's Friday. Spend some time with friends and family. If you can't do it physically, do it virtually. And, buy some XCM, man. Buy some XCM. We're doing everything we can to make sure that XCM pays off in the end. And we're going to continue pushing. Fundraising going to continue to be pushing. All I'm doing is focus on fundraising right now, guys. So my operational capacity is pretty much here. Fundraising is somewhere up here, talking to a lot of people. That's the name of the game right now. So see you guys here, I guess, the week after next, and see you on Telegram. You can tag me if you still have a question I didn't get to answer. Cheers, everybody.